Well, hello, friends. Welcome to another of our virtual principal read-alouds. I have a book for you today that I want to share with you. It's a new book. We were actually going to use it for our Literacy Spirit Week the last day, but unfortunately that had to be postponed. So you might hear it again if we get the chance to do that. But I'm really excited about this book, so I definitely wanted to share it with you. First, where in the building is Mr. Morris? Think you can figure it out? I think it's pretty obvious where I am. See if you can figure it out by the end of the book. I also want you to think about, as I'm reading, which portrait of the graduate traits do you think are showing up in this book? Maybe I'll give you some clues along the way in case you're struggling to find them. So let's go ahead and get started with a very good book called The Crayon Man. Wonder why it's called The Crayon Man. Let's find out. Don't you love that? Lots of crayons. The Crayon Man by Natasha. Once there was a man who saw color everywhere. He noticed the yellow-orange petals of the black-eyed Susans in his garden. He marveled at the rich scarlet-red tones of the cardinal's feathers. He admired the deep blue greens of the waves in the sea. Color made him really, really happy. But all day long at work, all he saw was black. Black dust, black tar, black smoke, black ink, black dye, black shoe polish. His company sold carbon black, a new kind of pigment or colored substance made from the soot of burning oil and natural gas. People used it in printing inks, electric street lamps, and stove and shoe polish. It also made rubber car tires last much longer. His name was Edwin Binney, and he was also an inventor. He worked with his cousin C. Harold Smith, and together they were Binney and Smith. Harold was a great salesman. He loved to travel the world, but Edwin was curious. He had a knack for listening and making what people needed. Edwin invented a new kind of inexpensive slate pencil that wrote very smoothly. It was gray. Children loved it. He invented a kind of chalk that wasn't dusty and didn't crumble. It was white. Teachers loved it. He invented a wax crayon that would write on wood and paper packaging. It was really, really black. People loved it. Paper was expensive in the 1800s, so children wrote with slate pencils or chalk on slates, small handheld blackboards. Think of your whiteboards, both chalk. So when everyone, including Edwin's wife Alice, told him the children needed better, cheaper crayons, he insisted. And he listened. And they said, the crayons we have are big and dull and clumsy. The lumps of colored clay only make fat, clunky lines. And the artist crayons from Europe are way too expensive. They crumble and they break easily. Some are even poisonous. Alice used to be a school teacher, so she knew what children needed. She encouraged Edwin to invent new crayons. Sorry, Mr. Morse is slowly used to this camera. Edwin thought about his company's inventions. When you drew a picture with their gray slate pencil, it rubbed off at the drop of a hat. When you drew a picture with their white chalk, it smudged everywhere. If you drew a picture with Edwin's new really black crayon, it was, well, really black. None of these inventions was any good for drawing in color. So Edwin listened, and Edwin invented. In a small stone mill in Pennsylvania in a top secret lab, Edwin's team experimented. How could they make better, stronger crayons? Melted paraffin wax? Perhaps. The first colored crayons invented in Europe were made from a mixture of charcoal and oil, so they broke very easily. To make stronger crayons, Edwin involved wax instead. Now for the crayon's colors. Grinding up rocks and minerals into fine powders. Mixing, slate for gray, earth for yellow, red, and brown perhaps. Oh yes, and lapis for blue. Pounding, sifting, and heating the coloring powders. Would they be bright enough? Edwin's team kept on trying. They kept on experimenting. Ground up rocks and minerals made bright pigments for the crayons. Red iron oxide for red, yellow iron oxide for yellow, varied shades of red iron oxide for brown, carbon black for black, zinc oxide for white, and imported ultramarine made from lapis lazuli for blue. 10 points if you can figure out what lapis lazuli is. They came home covered in color. Wouldn't that be a fun way to come home? They experimented some more and discovered a pinch of this pigment, a sploosh of that one, a little hotter, a little cooler, and voila, lots of different colors. Now there were greens and oranges and violets and pinks too. Edwin came home covered in color. To make orange, green, and violet, chemists blended various pigments and clays. Some minerals changed color when they were heated. Plus, the length of time the mixtures were left to cool created different colors too. In a large tub at the mill, Edwin's team measured out the ingredients: melted wax, clay to thicken, something for texture, colored powders, each in just the right amount every time to make a top secret formula. Slowly, carefully stirring hand by hand, they poured the special formula into thin crayon-shaped molds, smaller than any other inventor's, just the right size for children's hands. The mixture cooled and hardened. Edwin watched and Edwin waited. Children might eat or chew the crayons and get sick. So Edwin's team experimented to find new, safe, non-toxic colors and materials. Finally, one summer evening in June 1903, Edwin came home covered in color and announced that he'd invented a new kind of colored crayon. What should he call it? Alice had an idea. She said, let's mix the French word cray for a stick of chalk and the word ola for the word oleaginous, meaning the oily-like texture of the crayon wax, to invent a new word. Edwin listened. Benny and Smith shipped out the first Crayola crayon boxes: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, violet, brown, and black. 8 colored crayons for only a nickel. Edwin waited. Would children even like them? Children did. Now they could draw a tiny green caterpillar or a big blue sky. Their drawings wouldn't smudge and they wouldn't rub out. They were bright and they could last a long, long time. By the 1900s, inventors had figured out how to make cheaper paper from wood pulp. so children can now draw on paper instead of just their slate. Excitement over the new colorful invention spread like wildfire. Admirers from far and wide flocked to marvel at Brittany and Smith's inventions at the St. Louis World's Fair. The company's dustless chalk even won a gold medal. Proudly, Edwin and Harold showed off, especially their new Crayola crayon boxes. Every day, Edwin brought colorful bouquets from his garden to inspire his Crayola team. They made crayons in even more different shades and later asked children to help name some of them. To celebrate their 90th anniversary, Crayola held a color naming competition. The 6-year-old winner coined Tropical Rainforest. Other color names created by children included Robin's Egg Blue, Tickle Me Pink, and Macaroni and Cheese. At last, because of Edwin Binney, the man who saw color everywhere, who had a knack for listening and making what people needed, children all around the world could reach for just the right shade. And what's really cool about this book, it even tells you how Crayola crayons are made today. So we have many copies of this. So when you get back to the building, you can ask Mrs. Gurney for a copy of the book from the book room. You can take a look at how Crayola crayons are made. So Crayon Man, did you figure out which portrait of a graduate traits we saw in the book? Did you figure out where I am? Well, it's time to let go and go on to something else today. So did you figure out where I am? Have a great day, guys. I'll see you next time.